Okay, so moving on to companionship.
Companionship. This is
Aw.
Jesse's favorite.
Maybe. Number 1, utilizing our current life circumstances of intentioned interaction.
Of intentioned interaction? That's interesting.
Yeah, utilizing our current life circumstances of intentioned
It
interaction.
almost seems like it should be for intentioned interaction. What were the us from a year ago thinking?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Utilizing our current life circumstances of intentioned interaction.
I mean, it works that way too. It just for seems clearer. Anyway, it doesn't really matter here or there. I feel like we are spending a lot of time interacting with intention.
That's true. I mean, I think between just the two of us, but also with other people. And I do think that, again, this was written pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But I think that for this particular note, intentioned interaction is like such a COVID thing. You know, like there's not very much just randomly running into someone, although that has happened a bit.
Yeah, occasionally.
Which is always funny, especially now. But, you know, before there was plenty of unintentional interaction or interaction that didn't have any sort of real intention, where you're just hanging out, going to meet up with a big group of people or something, and like you don't really have a point. Whereas now, yeah, meeting up with someone is like a very special thing to be doing.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ironic things from the pillars that we didn't know was going to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, just interesting that was something that we had thought about, but just didn't realize how.
Well, it was also going to be a part of the
be.
events that we, didn't end up really doing because we can't. And also part of interacting with podcast guests.
Yeah, which has been great.
Yeah.
That's also been a really nice thing, knowing that a lot of people during this time haven't been able to see people, and we haven't seen that many people, but like socially, but when we have someone on the podcast, it's like a chance, if it's someone we already know, it's a chance to sort of catch up, but also to ask questions and talk about things that maybe we wouldn't talk about if we were just like hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate that we were doing this podcast as well, because it allowed us to have the types of interactions that a lot of people haven't been as fortunate to have, because their main experiences right now are working from home and working with the same people that they work with, or just seeing the same people that they see all the time.
Right.
And
thinking that, and a lot of things, have had to happen outside, which obviously we've done, but probably thinking like, oh, I don't know if I want to meet up with this person that I don't know all so well to like sit in the park in 25 degrees, which normally I probably wouldn't have done that either, but
right. And
because that was our only option, and that's fun. It ended up being really like fun and a funny way to interact.
And then even if you have had a job right now that involved interacting with people, is probably a good chance that those interactions were essential insofar as you were not getting the opportunity to really engage in deep discussion or learn about that person.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel very lucky about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next, unless you have anything else to say about that. Okay. Maximizing, this is funny. This is like after what we just talked about. Maximizing physical proximity for shared understanding potential.
Well,
unless that means maximizing physical like maximizing the distance.
Well, that is specifically about us.
Just the two of us, and that's allowed.
And I think that a lot of the ones that we're probably about to read are geared towards our personal companionship.
Yeah, I
but
think
of
you're
course,
right.
The word can apply broader depending on how we, I guess, feel about it right now.
Yeah. Well, then in that case, it has also been accelerated due to COVID.
Yeah.
That our physical proximity has been maximized.
Yeah, I'd say so.
For shared understanding potential.
For shared understanding potential. Yeah. That was the idea, that we'd spend a lot more time together and understand how each other thinks and acts, and utilize that information to feedback loop, to have it be closer.
I think that's what happened a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't fully understand you, nor do I ever expect to, but I think, just spending so many long days together, physically exerting ourselves and being out in the world, I think there's even more funny little phrases and ways of speaking and noticing the little differences.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe one difference I would think of for how we set it up there, or what I guess I personally envisioned versus what
Sure.
the reality has been, is these points were identified, come up with in the context of these long distance walking trips we had done. Walking the length of Vermont, walking from San Diego to Los Angeles, walking from the Pacific Coast to Olympia, Washington. And in all of these instances, it comes under the context of vacation time and taking a break from what our normal lives were. And I don't know to what degree I personally anticipated any of that would carry over or not, but I do think that whatever percentage I thought would carry over was less than what actually did carry over. Because, does that make sense?
So oh, okay, yeah, I think so. So you thought that maybe not very much would carry over.
No, I thought more would carry over in the general disposition of how we handled things than actually did carry over.
Oh, okay, that's opposite
So,
what
which
said.
is to say that, maximizing shared understanding. Is that how we phrased it there?
Maximizing physical proximity for shared understanding potential.
Shared understanding potential. For me, kind of, I would have thought would have manifested in the context of vacation time spent together, which is exploration and wonder and fun. And that is certainly a part of what we are doing. But particularly as we've now gone further into the project on our revisiting areas, this is a great example. This week, we ended up finding a spot that we hadn't previously. We found a dead-end spot around Sutton Place based on Jesse's insistence to go down there. And it overlooked the Queensboro Bridge, and it's just a little park. It's like a terrace park.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. We'd go back again sometime, and there was definitely a shared sense of wonder that accompanied that. But most of the time, it is us walking on paths that we have already gone through in some respect, and we're noticing differences perhaps, but it's not an exploration level. It is a more day-to-day level. And so the maximized shared potential or shared understanding in this instance is more like a day-to-day shared understanding and not like an exploration shared understanding.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Which leads to fights on the street openly, which is fun.
It's not new.
It's not, but that wouldn't happen on the vacations really in the same way. I mean, we definitely fought on the vacations, but not in the same way that we fought on the streets of New York at this point.
Yeah, but also I feel like the day-to-day fight type thing that would happen now also is often resolved a lot quicker. Or it's maybe we're kind of mad about it all day or something, but we're also in the middle, we're wait, hold on, look at that, that's cool. We can get back to this. Right? Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Which I do feel like is like there is a shared understanding that like this fight is ultimately silly, and we're also like, because we're taught, it's like a lot of times also about some like insane like detail that we just wouldn't have even gotten to if we were spending like the normal amount of time with each other, where we're like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, totally, 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 totally. What did you say? Like it's
tomatoes are a fruit.
like, right, or like, well, that excuse me. No, but like, yeah, like you're calling that mint green. Whereas normally maybe we would have had that conversation and just thought that we completely agreed on some point that one of us was making, because we wouldn't have gone into it so granularly. But because we're spending so much time together and just have 10 hours to just chit chat, like either one of us at any point can just be talking for 45 minutes about something, and you're like,
Yeah.
totally, totally.
We spent 2 hours today dissecting Coming to America, the sequel.
Coming to America,
I can
the
tell
number
you,
two. Yeah.
the review of that movie is, it is not worth talking about for 2 hours. But we
Well, yeah,
managed to do it.
I don't think the movie itself was even 2
No,
hours.
no, we talked about the movie longer than the movie was.
Yeah.
But that gives you an idea for the level of granularity we have in these conversations.
Right. So I think all of that fits under this maximizing physical proximity for shared understanding potential.
Sure.
Next,
let's hear it.
combining concerted effort for a mutual goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just fighting about this today.
Yeah, we were a little bit. That's why I'm silent.
The bottom line is, it's less about sharing whatever the fights are. I'd certainly be happy to, but I don't want to derail the podcast too much. The bottom line is, we are trying to figure out what the elements of sharing responsibilities on the projects are or are not. You know, the podcast, what responsibilities are whose, the social media, what responsibilities are whose, the walking aspect, what responsibilities are whose.
Yeah.
I hope that's right, because I said it 3 times.
You did say it 3 times. If it's not right before, it's right now.
Yeah. And also with Jessie running her dye studio, how the needs of that come into conversation with the project.
Right. And how much like that is something that takes my energy.
Yeah.
And then how much of that energy is able to be taken, like how much is it my responsibility to also be saving enough energy for this project?
Yeah.
And not completely letting myself get drained on it over there.
Yeah.
So combining concerted effort for a mutual goal. Yeah, I mean, I think even with all of that, what you just talked about, it definitely is still combined effort. And I guess what we're learning about how things have been going so far is that it sort of vacillates. Is that the right word? Up and down? Or is it oscillates?
Yeah.
Either one. It moves depending on the week, month, season.
Yeah.
And how much energy I have and how much energy you have. It sort of shifts back and forth, I think. So I think we have been combining concerted effort this whole time. We have the mutual goal, but there have been some times when it's like the combined effort is coming more from you or more from me.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still like giving basically everything we have in energy.
Yeah.
towards that goal.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Next. Okay.
Is this companionship still?
Yeah, there's 2 more.
Okay.
Sharing needs, aligning needs. There's a comma there. Sharing needs, comma, aligning needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's happening.
I think that actually relates a lot to what we just talked about too, because especially the last month or so when I had been super busy with my other work, there was a sharing of needs from both of us. I had things that I needed you to help me with, and I had things that I needed to do that were not related to this job, this project, that were related to my job. And I shared those with you, and you aligned yourself to help me. And then there were times when you felt like I wasn't giving enough energy to what we were doing, and you shared that with me. And then I realigned to try and meet that.
Right.
So, anything else to say about that?
No. I agree. I don't think we've failed to meet that sub goal.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think when we wrote it and when you read that, sharing needs, aligning needs, like, it sounds kind of simple. It's like, okay, so you're going to like share what you need and then you're going to like make it happen.
Yeah.
But I think in practice, well, I think with practice it gets easier, but I think in practice it is not super simple.
Yeah.
Even being aware of what it is that you need and then being able to vocalize that.
Yeah.
And then being the receiving person and being able to hear that without freaking out.
Yeah.
And like align.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
That's why it's written down.
That's why it's written down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is celebrating disparate experience in a parallel commitment.
Yeah. I just thought that was a fun one as far as writing it down.
Like, it's fun in language.
It's fun in language, but it's also
Yeah.
kind of I think an important concept to think about as far as just making note of it. The idea that, I mean, for instance, the bagel reviews, right? Like, that was not an anticipated thing, but it has been a thing that seemed that people were interested in. So I continued to do it. And it is largely a disparate experience from what your experience is, except when we get gluten-free bagels for you to eat.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it is shared. We can find a way to have it be a shared experience, even though it is largely my experience.
Well, I also think maybe when you first started doing them, it felt more or less like a shared experience, but the more you've been doing it and you've like created this bagel man persona and like language around it, the more I'm able to understand it. And it's almost like when sometimes you explain to me like what something smells like, and I have like the memory for things and like I can imagine, like even if I'm not able to eat the bagel, you're describing it in this way that's like, I don't need to eat the bagel. Like, I'm still eating the bagel by hearing you talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's like become not even a bagel anymore. It's just like some object that needs to be evaluated.
Right. Right. Sure. And then disparate experience could also mean our different experiences of the same activity. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I don't know if
of course.
I don't know if I necessarily have an example for the way that we experience the walking differently, but that would be something that, we could celebrate the different experiences we have about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I know that either. I mean, that makes me feel like we should probably study that a little bit. Or we could. I don't know if we have to or should, but
Yeah.
That could be a fun thing to study, though, like, because I don't know how you experience the walking.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think we probably have an estimation for how we each experience the walking, but if we spent more time thinking about it, there probably would be differences that would emerge.
Yeah.
Similarly, for how we experience people interfacing with our clothing, it's probably
Yeah.
another thing where there might be some fine differences that could be worth exploring at some point. But that sounds like the type of thing that maybe when the project is over, we will again revisit these pillars and then do another audit. In a lot of ways, what we're doing right now at this project is actually the middle of the project. And when we get to the last day of walking, there's a whole new circling back on this stuff, including watching every one of these podcasts and reevaluating what that's like. That's going to be my job, as you can see from her face. Don't worry, I'm on it.
That's a disparate experience.
Yeah, that's a very disparate experience.